Hello and welcome to Liandri Sanctuary Corps. The point of this part of the Alliance is basically it's a proving ground for all new pilots to the Alliance. Where you go from here is entirely up to you, and it's entirely down to your contribution to the Alliance as a whole. If you want to be a PvP pirate sort of running around going Yar a lot, then you speak to Quadra and his guys, who are generally well known as the PvP elite of the Alliance, and if you have any questions regarding that, please feel free to ask it. Then of course we have the main corporation, which has Raven and all that in there. We have an industrial arm, we have a wormhole arm. You know, there's a whole range of things here that you can get involved with. But in the meantime, you know, our main focus is that we are a faction warfare alliance. So we are involved in the main part of faction warfare. We fight the Galente and generally fight pirates that get in the way as well. I don't know how much you guys know about faction warfare and how it works, so basically I'm just going to sort of assume you know nothing and sort of go from there, so please forgive me if I'm covering old ground. So faction warfare is basically a mechanic within the game for you to organise together, get to groups together, learn how to do PvP, start capturing systems and start making some money. Of course, the risk of it is pretty high, but if you do it right, the reward can be pretty high as well. And unlike, say, nullsec or just roaming around in no-sec, faction warfare gives you the ability to control the fights that you get into by plexes. Now, you know, in some MMOs they call them dungeons, in Eve we call them complexes or plexes for short. And we will go out in a minute and find a plex. I'll tell you how to find one, what do you do in it, best ways to sort of defend it, and various bits and pieces like that as well. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll take that as a no. So, everybody who is currently in Occamum, I'm going to undock now. If once I undock, I'll give you the instruction to undock, and then what we will do is I'll give the instruction to align to a gate, and we'll start making our way to Tuscany. Excellent. Very fun. Okay, so we've entered this system. This one, myself and a couple other guys, we keep stable. So we will plex this system down to give you an idea of how faction warfare works. Systems are contested on the basis that as you capture complexes, it raises the capture status of the system. When you're in a friendly system and you capture complexes, you lower the contested status of the system. Now this one is stable because, like I said, myself and my friend Keck, we spend all our time making sure the system is stable. The rewards for doing this, naturally, are LP for the State Protectorate. Now, the amount of that LP will vary depending on the size of the plex. So if you guys haven't got your system scanners open already, please do so, and it's the radar button on the left hand side of your dial above the autopilot button. Select the system scanner tab, and then what you do is hit analyze. just the same way as you would do if you were trying to find pirate hideouts and all sorts of things like that. Okay, so in this system we've got a small installation, a novice outpost, a small outpost and a medium outpost. Now, you know, by size, they give different rewards and all those sort of things. Novice outposts are the smallest of all the outposts. The only things that can get into those sort of plexes are T1 frigates and faction frigates. Nothing else can get in there. And when I explained that faction warfare gives you ability to control fights that you get into, that's the mechanism that you use. By going into a plex that's sort of relative to your side of the ship or side of the ship that you're comfortable engaging, you can ensure that you don't come up against anything bigger than you. Smalls allow destroyers in and smaller. Mediums allow cruisers in and smaller. And larges allow pretty much everything else. But of course, going with the risk versus reward, the larger the plex, the more you get LP wise in exchange for completing the plex. Now, what we'll do is we'll go to a small and we'll all go sit in that one for a bit. Okay, so using your system scanner, select the small installation, which is currently 9.5 AU. Right click on it and then click on warp to 0.
I'm showing 2 smalls.
The small installation, it's 9.5 AU from our position, not the small outpost. As soon as you land, hit the activation button for the acceleration gate. Excellent. Okay, the rat in here that's saying a state destroyer, you don't shoot that in the friendly ones because they're Caldari. In Galente ones, they will be Galente ships, so you can shoot them. As a good easy guide to whether you think you can handle a plex that size, in novices you'll find that they're frigates. They can usually be quite easily destroyed. In smalls such as this one, they'll be destroyers. Again, they can be quite easily destroyed. In mediums you'll get cruisers. You need a ship that's got at least 140 DPS to be able to take out a cruiser, and then you've got battle cruisers in large, and you'll need at least a couple of hundred DPS to take one of those out. So don't enter a plex that you feel you can't handle. Okay, so if you got a good question on sort of DPS, damage per second, if you're not sure what yours is, if you go to the fitting screen of your ship and then look at a fence, it tells you the DPS. So for example, my hook bill has 3 sets of rockets on it, and it does 116 DPS. So there's 2 elements to this complex. You've got the outpost, or the actual installation that you are capturing. That's what you see at the centre of the complex with a timer counting down. Now, these timers change varying on the type of complex that you are attacking. A novice will take 10 minutes to finish, a small will take 15 minutes to finish, as will a medium will take 20 minutes to finish. You basically then just sit in the complex and wait for that timer to run down. In the meantime, obviously, you're totally vulnerable to anybody that wants to come into this complex. So we move on to directional scanners. Now, I don't know if you guys have used them before, but here's to give you an idea of how to use them if you haven't used one before. On your scanner, there is a tab which says directional scanner. This should be set at 360 degrees. You do that by moving the slider fully to the right and set the range. Now, on 360 degrees, the maximum distance you can scan using the D scanner is 4 astronomical units, 4 AUs. That's about 600 million kilometers. So put in 600, 700 million kilometers and you will pick up anything that is basically within 4 AU of you. That includes any passing ships or anybody that might be coming towards you. So if I do a quick scan now, I pick up everybody that's nearby. So we've got Thrasher, a Merlin, a Dramiel, a Merlin, a Rifter, an Incursus, another Rifter. But there's also a Reaper and a Sigil. Now they don't have a distance next to them because they're quite a distance away. Now these guys are always here, so but ideally what you're going to be looking for is ships you don't recognise appearing on that scan. You should ideally be hitting this scan button on the D scan every 5 to 10 minutes when you're in a system. Now at the moment in this system there's nobody else in local, so we know that there's nobody here that will try and come and kill us if we wanted to. But at the same time, if you see somebody in local, whether it be a pirate or a Galente militia, something like that, you then want to be looking at your D scan at your 4 AU range, your 700 million kilometers, and hitting scan on a regular basis. So, what if you do pick up something on a distance? You're going to be thinking, are they coming towards the Plex? Are they going to come after me? Quadra, if you could warp away to the gate and then let us know when you're on your way back. Okay, so there goes Quadra. Now if you're hitting scan, you'll see him disappear off our scan in a bit. And there you go, he's gone. Now when Quadra starts making his way back, he will now then reappear back on our D-scan. So here we go, keep an eye out on D-scan. When you are on your way back, Quadra, if you could just sit on the gate for me, that'd be great.
Yep.
Okay, and there he is on long scan. Now, at 700 million kilometers or 600 million kilometers, whichever one you prefer it to be set at, that tells you when they're far away, but it tells you everybody that's within that sort of bubble or sphere of you. So that's not particularly useful other than being a bit of an early warning system for you. So what you do is if you pick someone up that you're not sure about, you knock 3 zeros off your range. So in my case, I'm setting it to 700,000 kilometers, and then hit scan. As you can see, the Merlin buffer free, which is Quadras Merlin, is showing at a distance, and you know that the gate between the acceleration gate and here is 100,000 kilometers. So you're pretty sure that this guy is currently sitting on the gate, and generally often not they'll sit there and go, should I go in, shall I tackle who's in there, because they're scanning you just as you're scanning them, and they're making a decision on whether to come in and attack you. And at this point you're going to be thinking the same thing. Can I take this ship out? Is it a less powerful, is it a more powerful ship than me? Is the guy more experienced than I am? Generally you have to do this reasonably quickly, but if you don't think it's a fight you can win, you warp off to a safe spot. And I'm assuming you all know how to create safe spots. If you don't, please put an X in the fleet window. So by doing this, what you're actually doing, is setting up yourself an early warning system. By the time anybody comes into your plex, if they come into your plex and you see them and you're not quick enough getting out, generally it's already too late. If they land on the gate and you don't want to face them, you want to be out of the plex before they even hit the activation button on the gate. So does that is that clear for everyone? Does anybody have any questions? Okay, good. So right now we're sitting in this plex. We've got 5 minutes left on this timer. It's slowly counting down. Nobody's coming to attack us. Nobody's coming to kill us. Say somebody does though come in and want to attack you. They're going to come in where the beacon currently is. Now I'm going to highlight it on the screen. I'm tagging it as 0. That is the point where anybody that enters this plex will come into it. So they're going to usually land within a couple of kilometers of that beacon. So ideally, if you're wanting to fight someone, you want to be near that beacon at your optimal range of your weapons. If you're a long range fit, a long range missile fit, then you want to sit far away from the beacon. Or even if you just want to avoid getting into a fight, stay away from that beacon. But bear in mind that if you are trying to avoid getting into a fight and you do want to stay away from that beacon, you still have to be within 30 kilometers of the installation, the complex you're capturing, and I'm tagging that as 1 now. If you go beyond 30 kilometers of that installation and the timer runs down, you won't get any reward for capturing it. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I want everybody to go and create some safe spots. So this is a skill that you've got to learn. Quadra has explained it in Fleet Chat already. So what I want you to do is, and this is quite of an important little rule to learn when you're creating safe spots. When you land in a system, don't from the gate warp straight to a moon or a planet or anything like that and then create your safe spot when you're on your way. You want to create a safe spot that's out of the way of anybody's sort of normal travel range. So you warp to a moon or a planet and then create a safe spot while you're going through that, and then go to your new safe spot that you created and then warp to another spot and then create a new one. So what you do then is create something that's away from any paths of flight that anybody could do. So if anybody selects a celestial that you want to fly to, click your people and places button. Under your places tab, get that ready, and then hit warp to a celestial of your choice. When you're about halfway between there, click add your location, create your new location, and then you have your safe spot created. it's usually a good idea to create maybe 2 or 3 within a system, so you can bounce about, keeping range in, well, Cordelia says he's got 8 in the system, but you can bounce between places to keep safe, because while 99% of the time you will remain safe within a safe spot, that's hence the name, there's nothing stopping an enemy pilot with a scanning ship, say like a buzzard or a hound, something like that, using combat probes to try and track you down. So when you do go to a safe spot, it's important that you keep moving. So pick a direction, hit your afterburner, hit your micro warp drive, and keep heading in that direction. And again, carry on looking at your D-scan and making sure that nobody finds you and chases you. Okay, any questions about creating safe spots at the moment? Okay, good. So I hope that kind of answers. Muffin made a good point there. If you want to be cautious, you can add a cloak. The downside, obviously, of a cloak is, however, if you go and sit in a plex and cloak up, you don't run the timer down. Also, when on a lot of ships that aren't covert ops, you have to decloak in order to move away. And also during that time while you're decloaking, you've got a timer, which means that you can't target anything for usually 15-20 seconds. This means you're totally vulnerable in that period of time. But having a cloak, especially if you have a covert ops cloak, is perfectly good at getting around without being caught. So I think that sort of explains a bit about capturing plex. So we're in a plex and we're capturing it. We've run down this timer. The timer on this one's about to hit 35 seconds. What does that actually mean? What happens when it runs out? Well, first of all, you get an LP reward based on the complex that you've just captured. Now, that's affected by the tier, but we'll cover a little bit more about that in a minute. But what does that mean to the capture status of the system? So in the top left hand side of the screen, you've got the faction warfare display, including the contested status bar of the system. Now at the moment this one is stable, so what we're doing here won't affect the system either way. But if you are in a system that has contested status and you're doing what we're doing, i.e. sitting in a Caldari state system, running a plex, capturing it, then it will actually decrease the contested status of the system and move it more towards stable. If you're in an enemy complex, when you capture the system, it will move it up towards a vulnerable status. Now when the system becomes vulnerable, it allows you, whoever basically wants to capture the system, to attack the ihub. Now you can see the ihub on the overview screen, and we'll go to that in a bit and sort of talk a bit more about that a little bit later on. Once the ihub is attacked and its shield and armour is run down, it's a big job because you need a lot of guns to do it. Once it's run down, the system is then lost and then it flips control at the next downtime. So you see we got an email saying no loyalty points awarded, but if you're in a plex where you were awarded loyalty points, then you would get that. The rewards on plexing are different depending on what types of systems you're in. So if you're in an offensive system, so you're capturing a Galente plex, you will get a full LP reward for capturing that complex. If you're in a system like we are now, which is a Caldari controlled one, you'll get a reward which is basically the ELP reward for that plex times by 0.75 times by the contested status of the system. So the more contested a system is, the more you get for defensively plexing it. This also means that there's going to be more Galente there trying to flip it, but it also means there'll be more of us there trying to stop them from flipping it. So they can get quite hairy when it gets close to being captured. So you capture the complex, you've earned your LP. Now what do you do? Say you spent an afternoon capturing complexes, and now you need to know what to do. So there's two things you can do with your LP. You can fly to the infrastructure hub, which I'm now going to get us to do. So bear with me a moment while I fleet walk this.
Warp drive active.
Okay, so this is the infrastructure hub, and it's the center of all the faction warfare systems. When a system becomes vulnerable, you're able to attack this hub and flip control of the system to whichever side that you want to flip it to. But until then, there's not really anything you can do for this. Now this is a one that we control and we own. And this gives us a unique option. You can fly to the infrastructure hub. You can then right click on the infrastructure hub and open the system upgrade panel. Now if you're feeling in a particularly generous mood, or you've had a very good day and you've made a decent amount of LP, to know that you don't need to keep it all for yourself, or you just want to help the cause, which is ideally we all should be contributing a little bit to it. You can put some of your LP into this hub. Now this system is fully upgraded, so it's had over 200,000 LP put into it already, and that's down to myself and one of my colleagues and a couple of other people within the Alliance as well. That gives us a few benefits, as in, local stations have better facilities, things are a little bit cheaper for us, we don't have to worry about prices. Which is why we keep Okamon, which is our home system, as stable as possible and as upgraded as possible. Are there any questions regarding ihubs and the mechanics of flipping systems and how it works? No, okay. So you've made your LP, and I've got all this LP stashed away now. What exactly do I do with it? Well, you can go to State Protectorate systems, stations within systems. There's one in Norvakaiken, which is a few jumps from Jita. There's another one, I believe, in Onomon, which is just outside of, it's only a few jumps away from Okamon. And what you can do in these systems, you can use the LP store, which is the icon that's on the top left hand side of your station services panel, to exchange your LP for items in the store. You can then take them to Jita, sell them, or basically put them on the market and make yourself ISK. And that way you can fund your ongoing requirements. Now, it's an interesting time at the moment because we as a militia now control 65 systems. Now, if you want to keep a track of how we're doing as a militia, you can use the faction warfare button, and you can access that by going into your Eve menu, which is the E button on the top left hand side of your screen, going into business factional warfare and open it that way. If you haven't already dragged that icon to your neocon bar, then do so now, because it's quite handy to look at. So, looking at the faction warfare screen, it gives us a whole bunch of information basically. Now I'm looking at the tab which is basically Warzone control, and we can see in the top right that we currently hold 254 points, 65 systems are under our control, and there's a little table at the bottom which basically states how many systems we have and at what upgrade level they are. So we have 14 at level 5, 17 at level 4, 9 at 3, 9 at 2, and 6 at 1. You've got the graphic there which shows the control going up and down accordingly, and as you can see from there we've got 3 bars, blue bars along the top. You've got tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3. We're currently in tier 3, so that actually means we get a 75% bonus to all the LP we get for capturing and defensively plexing systems. T2 gives you the full amount that you should expect, and if you go to T1 then you actually get half. Currently the Gallente are sitting at T1, so they're getting half the LP for all the capturing that they do. We were in that position 2 months ago. I'm glad to say we're not anymore, because doing all that work for half the LP is a lot of hard work. Yeah, and Quadra Kryros says 2 months ago we didn't hold any systems. Now we hold most of them, and there's probably about 8 or 9 which are currently vulnerable. Now, by putting your LP into the infrastructure hubs, what this does is move the bar across. So if we get enough points in there, then we can get into tier 4, which is 150%. So you're getting 250% loyalty point gains. This does have a bit of a knock-on effect, obviously, to our economy, because it means there's a lot of Caldari loyalty points sloshing around on the Vegeta markets at the moment, which means actually our stuff isn't worth too much. So what we're kind of doing is saving a lot of our LP for a rainy day, putting what we can in the hubs to keep them under control, and making sure that we can maintain and control the systems basically. Okay, so if everybody now aligns to the Caldari Navy assembly plant, of broadcasting fleet. At 300,000 LP in the hub, you can't actually physically put any more in there. But what that does give you is a 100,000 LP buffer, because every time a Gallente militia comes in and captures one of our plexes, it actually takes LP from the hub. So you have to keep them topped up to make sure that they maintain the level that they need. So it's an ongoing thing that you always need to do. Okay, everybody head to the Caldari Navy assembly plant and dock.
Warp drive active.
So we've covered a bit on how plexing works, the mechanics around plexing. We've covered how you actually physically do it and what sort of rewards you can get from it as well. We've also covered the use of D-scan. And, you know, importantly, that allows you to sort of look after yourself, get your situational awareness, know who's in the local area and who might be after you. I think pretty much that is the induction course for faction warfare over and done with. So are there any questions floating around, any burning thoughts that people might want to ask right now? And it doesn't actually have to be about the faction warfare side of it. Quadra quite rightly says it can be about anything. How many plexes must be captured in order to lose or gain a system? Well, basically you have to fill the faction warfare bar to its maximum. Now, if you assume that nobody undoes your work by coming in and either offensively or defensively plexing your system, you actually need to capture 143 in total, because every time you capture or defend a plex, it increases or decreases the capture status of a system by 0.7. So is that the only two questions we got at the moment?
Most probably. We've moved on to spaceport now, so.
Right. Well.
And now it's ready.
Well, thanks a lot, guys, for taking time out to do this little fleet and spend some time learning about faction warfare in more detail. And really, that's about it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.